Hello. Today we'll talk about software measurement matrices. Matrices are very important. Matrices provide us very useful insights about any process or any activity going on. We can create different types of matrices. For our case in software engineering, we can measure the size, quantity, amount or dimension of any attributes of the product. It can be done for any other process also apart from software engineering. For software engineering, the matrices are governed by an ISO standard. With the help of different types of measurement about a software, about the different aspects of software development, we can control our process. We can define what way we are going ahead in the software development process, and also we can foresee what is going to happen in future with our software. Software is measured in order to create a quality of the current product. It also helps us in anticipation of future quality of the product. We can create some enhancements in the quality of product with the passage of time as we keep on monitoring our matrices. We can regulate the state of project in terms of budget and schedule. Whatever has been planned, whether we are going as per the plan in terms of the amount to be expended on the project and in terms of the time which will be required to deliver the final product to the customer, that all can be helped with the help of software measurement matrices. We classify the software matrices into two types broadly based on their role, their interaction with the kind of thing we are measuring. There are direct measurements and there are indirect measurements. In a direct measurement matrix, we directly measure some kind of phenomena of a product or a thing or a process directly. In an indirect measurement, we try to correlate something, some parameter for measuring some other quantity. So this is called as indirect measurement. Both these types of measurements of matrices basically have an important role in making a software product development. The software matrices basically is a measure of software characteristics which are measurable and countable. So a lot has been talked about software matrix, but what it actually is, it is something, it is some property, some characteristic of a software which can be measured in some quantified values. And this software matrix is basically helpful in measuring the software performance. It is helpful in planning work items. It also helps us in identifying the productivity of the software development process, and also it can be used in number of ways as per the specific requirements of a software. A software matrix must qualify certain properties which make it more usable. The first and the most important attribute of a software matrix is it must be quantitative. That is, we should be able to express it in terms of some quantum values. There must be some quantum values through which we can compare it from its previous performance. It should be understandable. That is, we should be very easily able to comprehend what a matrix talks about, what kind of information it is conveying. It should be applicable from the starting phases of software development process. If we are able to implement some matrices from the beginning phases, we will be able to control our processes in a better way. The matrix should be repeatable. That is, the matrix should be very consistent in nature, and whatever data it captured at one instant, the same things can be captured again also in the same format. It should not be an accidental capture of data. So whatever information is, whatever process has been captured in a matrix, that should be repeatable. It should be very economical to use software matrices. They should not involve lot of resources or manpower, or economically they should not involve money in order to create those matrices. They should be here to supplement the software development process. They should not become a liability on the software development process. The language should not be a bound for matrices. The software measurement matrices should not be dependent on any programming language. They should be programming language independent, so that we can use them in any kind of software development environment. Now we classify the software matrices again into further two types, the product matrices and the process matrices. As the name signifies, a product matrix is basically relevant to the current product. It evaluates the state of the product. It tries to track the associated risk of the project which is currently being undertaken, and also tries to uncover some areas of problem which can be visible to us in the near future. So this type of matrices basically correlate to the size, reliability and complexity of the current problem in hand. While process matrices, they are the matrices which are used by the organizations in order to enhance the long-term processes of a team or the organization. So these matrices become very, very important for the evolution of an organization. The organization tries to improve its productivity, quality, efficiency, etc. with the help of process matrices. So both these matrices, the product matrices, very important for the current project in hand, and process matrices, they are important for the organization as a whole in order to improve their working, in order to produce better softwares in future. The first kind of matrix that is very, very important is lines of code. As the name signifies, lines of code, LOC, it's the simplest among all available matrices, and it basically counts the number of instructions in developed program. If you write more number of lines of code, this matrix will identify that you have put more effort in your code. So it is the simplest method, the first kind of matrix, that basically helps us in knowing what kind of effort, what kind of work has been done in order to make a software. It simply assumes more the number of lines of code, more is the effort being put. This type of matrix is basically evaluated based on some systematic guessing, because it is not possible for us to identify the exact number of lines of code for a software to be produced in the beginning. In order to estimate the costing of a product, lines of code play a very critical role, and when we use this systematic guessing in order to approach the actual number of lines which will be delivered in the final product. For that, the project managers are responsible, and the project managers, what they do is they divide the complete problem into sub-modules and further divide it into further sub-modules, and so on. They keep on breaking the problem into smaller parts and break it up to that point where further division is not possible, and at that point they try to estimate the number of lines required to code to the lowest possible levels, and they integrate all those sub-module development effort of lines of code, and finally generate a rough estimate about the total number of lines of code required for the complete software to be developed. This way, lines of code try to project what is the kind of effort required for making any software product. There are different disadvantages of this particular technique. As we have just now talked about LOC being counted as the number of lines of code delivered. So this particular type of technique does not take into account the complexity of the code. It does not take into account any kind of designing effort. It does not take into account any kind of testing effort. It does not take into account any kind of complexity levels. So this type of technique is basically dependent only on lines of code which are delivered. The lines of code that will be delivered depends on the choice of specific instructions by a programmer. One programmer may code in 100 lines of code, and the same thing can be coded by somebody else in 40 to 50 lines of code. So the one who used 100 lines of code will be expected to have put more effort, more resources in order to generate that code as per this particular matrix LOC. LOC poorly correlates with the quality and efficiency of the code. So the kind of efficiency that we use in a more matured programming environment, that is not appreciated by LOC. LOC also penalizes the use of high-level programming languages and code reuse, because this matrix is not supportive of encouraging code reuse, because in code reuse we save a lot of lines of code being written again and again. So in that case, the LOC will not be able to appreciate this particular feature in any programming language. Additionally, the LOC matrix does not address issues like logical and structural complexities. So it does not take account of all these complexities which we have in big commercial projects. And it is very difficult to estimate LOC of a final program from problem specification. That is one very important part, that with LOC metrics we prepare rough estimates, but the actual idea about the final product in terms of its LOC cannot be taken from the initial idea about the requirement specification of the product. Function point matrix is the other type of metric after the LOC metric. The function point metric was given by Albrecht in 1970s, and they gained a lot of popularity over the LOC metric. This type of metric has an inherent advantage that this matrix can be calculated from the requirement specification itself. We don't need to have an estimate about the number of lines of code. This metric takes into account the functionality that we impart to a software. The functionality of a software or the function point metric can be easily calculated or estimated with the help of the number of inputs and outputs, data items, and the number of files accessed by a function. The more is the data accessed, the more are the inputs and outputs of a function, the more is the functionality a software product is performing. This is the basic idea about function point metric. The function point metric has been very effectively used in order to create estimates about the development effort required. So the number of inputs and output data items give an accurate indication of the code size compared to simply giving the idea about the count of the high level functions supported by the system. So Albrecht proposed that along with the number of inputs, outputs, there are some more indicators about the kind of functionality we are imparting to a software product. The size of the software also depends upon number of files and the number of interfaces associated with the software. So more is the number of internal files and more is the number of external files which a software is interacting with, make it more complex, make it more heavy, make it more effort requiring as compared to other softwares. So Albrecht proposed a function point analysis called the Albrecht's function point analysis, where he decomposed the system into various functional units. He identified 5 functional units of any software, which are inputs, the information entering the system. Any kind of information that enters the system is identified as inputs, and the outputs are the information that is leaving the system. The third component is inquiries, which is the request of information accessed instantly by the user. Fourth component is internal logical files. This is the information that is kept inside the system in some files. And the fifth component is the external interface files. This is the information that is held by some other systems which are external to our system, but our system needs this information for its working. So these 5 components were the critical components identified and named as function point analysis by Albrecht. These are all the functional units of the Albrecht function point analysis. Pictorially, we can see a functional unit system consists of internal logical files, it consists of external logical files, it consists of inputs from the user and output of the processed information to the user, and also some kind of inquiries which can be done by user at the runtime to the system. So all these 5 functional units collectively define and identify the kind of functionality that the software will provide to the user. There are different features which we need to know about the function point matrices. These function point matrices are independent of the language, tools and methodologies used for implementation. They do not consider and are not dependent on any programming language, any database management system, any hardware or any software technology. This is one of the most important feature of function point matrices, that they work independent of any kind of platform. Function point matrices can be identified and estimated from requirement specification or the design specification itself. So these matrices start being functional, start being operational from the very beginning, initial phases of the software development process. The function point matrices are directly related to the requirement statement. So any change in the requirement set of the software product will have a requirement of changing and recalculating the function point matrices. The function point matrices are based on the system's external view, and they do not in depth calculate anything apart from the functionality imparted to the software. So non-technical users even can have an idea about what a function point matrix is saying. So they are very easy to comprehend, very easy to correlate for anybody who has not much idea about the technical aspects. The function point matrix computation basically involves the computation of unadjusted function points first. So Albrecht gave a simple metric to calculate the unadjusted function points. Albrecht identified that the 5 functional components of any software to be developed, that is inputs, outputs, inquiries, number of files and number of interfaces, can have 3 levels of application, 3 levels of implementation, which are simple, average and complex. And Albrecht gave some quantum values to each of these functional units based on the complexity of their implementation. For example, if the input is implemented in a simple quantum value, in that case input gets a quantum value equal to 3. If we have an implementation of output which is of average type, then the quantum value associated with that output is 5. In the same way, all the functional units, all the 5 functional units, based on their complexity of implementation, if they are simple, if they are average or they are complex, they have been associated with certain quantum values as shown in this table. These are also called as weight factors. These weight factors are used in order to calculate the function point of any software development problem. The formula for calculation of unadjusted function point is given over here in this slide. The unadjusted function points is basically the summation of the product of the weights assigned to the function unit into the number of function units which are required to be developed. So this is the formula and very simple calculation for calculating the unadjusted function point. After calculating the unadjusted function points, we calculate finally the function point matrix. The function point matrix is calculated based on the product of unadjusted function point and the complexity adjustment factor. Now the new term that has come up is complexity adjustment factor. This complexity adjustment factor is basically dependent on the current software development problem in hand. The current problem in hand basically decides what kind of complexity we have. There are 14 factors which are called as degree of influence collectively, and they decide what kind of problem we have in hand. So complexity adjustment factor basically is given by the formula 0.65 plus 0.01 into Fi. Now this Fi is basically called as the degree of influence and is based on the responses to the specific questions to the software development problem in context. These 14 factors identify what is the value of Fi. So what are these 14 factors? It is very interesting to know these 14 factors are basically rated on a scale of 0 to 5. These factors basically are related to the requirements of the product, requirements of the software that we are going to develop, for which we are calculating this function point matrix. So there are 14 questions which include the different types of requirement of software, like whether the software requires the backup, recovery, data communication requirements, performance is critical or not, distributed processing functions, and many more, input output requirements. All the different aspects of a software developed to be developed are analyzed in these 14 points, and they all are rated on a scale of 0 to 5. Based on their severity, based on their need, they are rated from 0 to 5. The 0 is no influence of a factor, and 5 is the factor being very essential for the developed product. So after working out all these 14 factors, we work out what is the value of Fi, and this Fi is used to calculate and convert our unadjusted function points to the corresponding function point matrix. So this was all about the function point matrix, and these matrices help us evaluate the performance and the effort required for any software development environment very well, and comprehend the kind of efforts which will be required in future also at the time of design. The function points can be used for the calculation of the productivity, the quality, the cost, documentation required, and many more such kind of factors in order to estimate things well in advance based on the requirements which have been cited for a product. So this type of matrix gives more confirmed idea about the complexity and the effort required for any product which is going to be developed. So these matrices are controversial and are not universally accepted. Some organizations accept it, and some organizations have their reservations in accepting these types of matrices. This was all about function point matrix. Thank you.